بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. In the dark, shed some light in your life through the Quran. So this Quran is the book Hikmatum Baligha. It is a book filled with wisdom. Every injunction, every prohibition, every story, everything indeed in this book, this kalam is filled with wisdom. So to make niyyah that, Ya Allah, this book is filled with wisdom. Let me benefit from this wisdom and make me hakim, wise. Hikmatum baligha, effective wisdom, perfect wisdom. So such perfect wisdom, then it's a means of guidance. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. It should not be that I'm amongst those people who do not take benefit from the warnings. فَلِلَّهِ الْحُجَّةُ الْبَالِغَةُ. With Allah is the perfect proof, the perfect argument. So it should not be that this book is perfect with wisdom, etc. Ulama have gone into details of what is hikmah and different discussions. Number one, they've said بمعنى سنة ربنا وابعث فيهم رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. He will teach them Shariat, Deen, the life of the Nabi. Ibn Taimiya has mentioned that بالنبوة وبعلم القرآن, that the Nabi comes with the knowledge which is the wisdom of Allah, or the knowledge of Quran, Hikmah. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu explains here ilmul Quran nasikha wa mansukha wa muhkama mutashaba, different aspects of the Quran, what has been abrogated, the halal, the haram, etc. Dhahak is mentioned here, Al-Quran wal-fahm fi. It is the Quran and understanding the Quran. Then you are hakim, and that is hikmah. The Quran and understanding the Quran. If you've been given this here, you are favored. Mujahid is mentioned here, Al-Quran wal-ilm wal-fiqh. It is the Quran, it is knowledge, it is the understanding, the summary of Quran and Hadith, the fiqh and the jurisprudence behind it. In another narration here, isabatu fil qawli wal fi'li. A person's life is accordance to what Allah and His Rasul wants, and his speech is also correct. So in speech and in action. Ibrahim Nakhai is mentioned here, ma'ani al-ashya wa fahmuha. It is understanding the purpose of different things and understanding Shariat. Hassan has mentioned al-wara' fi dinillah. It is taqwa, piety, scrupulousness in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, other ulama, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah said, al-qada bil-wahi bis-sunnah. So revelation and sunnah. Imam Nawawi has mentioned وَرَجُلٌ أَتَاهُ اللَّهُ حِكْمَةً فَهُوَ يَقْضِي بِهَا وَيُعَلِّمُهَا. يعني يعمل بها, that a person practice on this Quran and Sunnah, and he teaches people as well with the hope of reward. Is also mentioned وَالْحِكْمَةُ كُلُّ مَا مَنَعَ مِنَ الْجَهْلِ. Everything that stops you from ignorance, وَزَجْرَ عَنِ الْقَبِيحِ, and rebukes a person and prevents one from evil, from the wrong. So it stops a person from ignorance and evil. So Nabi alayhi salam made dua for Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, Allahumma allimhu al-kitab. Allah, teach him the hikmah, which is kitab. So riwayat al-Bukhari, allimhu al-hikmah. Other riwayat, allimhu al-kitab. So Quran is hikmah. Understanding the Quran is part of hikmah. Mujahid is mentioned that al-ilm wal-fiqh wal-Quran Abu al-Aliya khashyatullah, the fear of Allah. Ibrahim Nakhi has mentioned al-faham. Abu Malik has mentioned understanding as-sunnah. Ibn Wahab and Malik has mentioned al-hikmah al-aql. Imam Malik has mentioned aql. So different ulama have given different interpretations. Allama Ibn Kathir, after mentioning many of the aqwal of the ulama in his tafsir, والسيان الحكمة كما قال الجمهور لا تختص بالنبوة بل هي عام منها وأعلاها النبوة والرسالة. So basically it is generally combining all the meanings, whether it is the prophethood or whether it is following Anbiya. So it's a combination. Allama Zamakhshari in his tafsir Kashaf has mentioned an interesting point, that Allah gives hikmah to a person, then he has given the best, يوفق للعلم والعمل به, that he is given tawfiq of the knowledge of deen and practicing on deen. So when we read in the Quran all this which has been mentioned now, is to make the niyyah that Allah must give me this year. وَالْحَكِيمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَالْعَالِمَ الْعَامِلِ. And who is a hakim? Allama Zamakhshari is explaining, he is an alim who practices on his knowledge. So other ulama have said isabatul haq bayn al-mutashabih, whatever is doubtful, to identify the doubtful and follow the truth. So sometimes we'll be having different opinions, different ulama, different situations, but to choose the correct one. Fahmul Quran, others have said it is the understanding of the Quran. Then the second meaning, nubuwa, wa atahu Allahul mulka wal hikmah, ay nubuwa, prophethood. Wa ataynahu al hikmata wa fasl al khitab, kad ji'tukum bil hikmah. Third meaning, fiqh, yu'ti al hikmata man yasha. Number 4, al-fahm, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ. Number 5, al-'idha, taking lesson, hikmatun baligha. So a person who has gotten this hikmah is, according to Sa'di, أعظم من خير فيه سعادة الدارين, that anything that will give you the privilege of this world and the year after to be among the fortunate people. So a lot of ayat of the Quran describing this hikmah and this wisdom. So to make a niyat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me benefit from this wise words. It's the words of Allah, the most wise, and the words are wise and it is filled with wisdom. So how can I become from the hukama, the wise people? Allama Ibn Taimiya, who was an intellectual of his era, and details have been written about him, but he was a great mufassir of the Quran, and he used to make a lot of tadabbur and tafakkur on the ayat of the Quran. And he himself said that I would read up to 100 books just to get an understanding of a single ayah verse. So one ayah, he would study up to 100 tafasir and kitabs just to understand how much hikmah must be in this Quran. A great scholar like that, imagine what fiqh and understanding Allah had given him, yet he would not suffice on his knowledge. He would still go to the tafasir to understand the meaning. Then he should say that after all of this, I would still make dua to Allah to teach me the meaning of the verse. And he would make this dua, Ya Allah, you taught Adam and Ibrahim alayhim as-salam, you taught Anbiya, please teach me as well. And sometimes he would say, I would go to the desolate, unfrequented masajid or places in solitude. I would rub dust on my forehead and say, Oh Allah, the one who has taught Adam, Ibrahim, the one who has taught Anbiya, grant me understanding. So much hikmah in the Quran that a person will become Hakim beyond comprehension. That we will say, this person is Hakim. Where you got the wisdom? Wisdom is from Quran. You are reading the words of Hakim, you'll become Hakim. Naasirud-Deen Mahmood, he was a king, a muttaqi, he was quite famous. He was known for his generosity. He had a heart of gold. But also with that, he was a qari, he was a calligrapher, and he was an expert in writing the script of the Quran. So most of his time was spent in tilawat, and he would write 2 manuscripts of the Quran every year and sell it, and he would live on that because he didn't want to rely only on the Baytul Mal. So one day he was busy writing the nuskha of the Quran when a minister entered for a need, and he came to the king, and as they were discussing, the minister's gaze fell on the Quran where he was busy with Surah Tawbah, where fihi was written twice, one after the other. So the minister at that point in time assumed that the king made an error. So he said, I don't consider my suggestion disrespectful, but I suggest that one fee should be erased. And it shouldn't been written twice. So the king circled the second word, thanked him, and said, I've noted it. And they carried on as normal. The minister left. After the minister left, the king erased the circle he had drawn. So one khadim was there, heard the whole conversation, and said, King, may I ask why you have erased the circle without correcting the mistake? So he smiled and he said, what I had written is correct. So in the Quran it says fihi, both come together in verse 108. But I didn't want the minister to feel bad about what he suggested. If I did tell him he had made a mistake, he would have been embarrassed, and he would have left without discussing the matter. Means whatever he came for, we wouldn't finish it. So I just made a circle to appease him. Then he said, it is far easier to erase what has been written on a page than to erase the damage that has been done on someone's heart. It is far easier to erase what has been written on a page than to erase the damage that has been done to someone's heart. So Ya Allah, this is your kalam. It is filled with hikmah. Make me Hakim. Whatever the commentaries, the commentators, what Allah you have decided a Hakim should be, Ya Allah, make me that person. Qawlan as well, and let words of hikmah flow from me. Amalan, let amal of hikmah flow from me as well. So unfortunately, because effort is not being made on Quran, there's no shock to make our children ulama. A alim is understanding Quran, it's doing the tafasir. So every family should have minimum at least one alim in the family. Likewise, huffaz, all our children, if Allah gives somebody tawfiq, to make them, all of them huffaz. So this fiqh of dunya and mastering the things of the dunya, people have become experts. They're living for dunya, they're dying for dunya. How many years is dedicated for secular knowledge? What did you achieve? Let's say somebody specializes, and we're not saying it is not permissible, but a person could do both as well, no problem. He is a mufti engineer, he's a mufti lawyer. What's wrong with that? Why do we channel? Okay, forget even becoming a scholar of deen. Do I know that sufficient knowledge that I can answer to Allah for every aspect of my life? The person goes to maktab, spends 6-7 years, just 2 hours, 5 days a week, sufficient, and he considers himself knowledgeable. Much more we need to learn. How much fiqh is there in deen? How much hikmah is there in deen? So then a person's living and dying, his happiness and his sadness is only about dunya. what he should be said about, even in his dunya, he's not said about that. He misses the point eventually. He becomes such an expert in dunya, he starts missing the point. Like a person was in a restaurant and he looked very sad and miserable. So the person next to him said, excuse me, but you look very depressed, you look so sad. What's the problem? So he said, well, it's just good you asked, because I'll tell you what my problem is. My mother died in June and she left me $10,000 in inheritance. So the person said, oh, that's tough, man. Shame you lost your mother. Then he said, in July, my father passed away. He left $50,000. She said, oh, I'm so sorry, man. Losing two parents in 2 months, that must be quite depressing. I can see why you look like that. And he said, now, this last month, so June that happened, July father, now in August just passed, and my aunt died, and she left me $60,000. So he said, oh, shame, in 3 months, 3 people. I can understand now why you're depressed. So June, July, August. He said, it's already the end of September. What you talking about? Nobody has died yet. Nobody has died. I was on a lucky streak. I got so much money. Where you supposed to be said about? So even in our dunya, na'uzubillah, our focus has gone far beyond comprehension. And it's all about maximizing dunya, benefiting from dunya, extorting people for dunya. Let's say a businessman put an insurance claim after his shop burned down. So the insurance agents came, he settled the claim. He said, you know what, see, you benefit from the fire insurance, but I notice you don't have a insurance for storm damages. So why don't you take out this coverage as well? So the person said, storm? How do you start a storm? How do you start a storm? So extortion from dunya, it's all about dunya. So this Quran is the kalam of Allah. We need to be engaging in the kalam of Allah. There's so much hikmah. It was said that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when he used to perform tahajjud salat and he used to recite the Quran, then Abu Sufyan, Abu Jahl, Akhnas ibn Shuraik, they used to go and listen to the Nabi of Allah, and secretly, and they spent the entire night till Fajr, and then they used to leave. So they met once on the road, and they reminded each other and reprimanded, don't do this again. If somebody had to see you, what will they think of you? So they went their separate ways, and they said, okay, none of us will come again. The next night they returned in the same place, spent the entire night listening to the Quran till Fajr. Again, they met up on the road, they reprimanded each other. They said, hey, don't come again. The third night again, they returned. The Quran, such hikmah. It's even a kafir, an idol worshipper, can't get enough. So, okay, let's not leave until now we make a promise. Okay, so we took an oath, and they said they will never come again. So in the morning, Akhnas ibn Shuraik, he went to the house of Abu Sufyan and said, oh, Abu Sufyan, tell me what's your opinion of what you've heard from Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Abu Sufyan said, oh, Akhnas, I heard things which I understand and I know what is meant, and I heard things which I don't understand. So Akhnas replied, and the being whose name he took an oath, I also have the same opinion. Then he went to Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl said, you know, what have I heard? Banu Abdul Manaf and us have competed for honor. They've fed people, we've fed people. They transport people on conveyance, we transport people. They give charity, we give charity. We were neck on neck in challenges. Then they said, we have a messenger among us who receives revelation from the heavens. How can we compete with that? How we can compete with that? We will never believe in him, nor attest to the truth of his message. Akhnas left. So Abu Jahl acknowledged he was the Nabi of Allah. He acknowledged he was the Nabi of Allah. It was about the challenge. We're going to lose this round. Sometimes our pride, even amongst the ulama, Allah protect one and all. It is haqq and batil, finish. This is black and this is white. If I made a mistake, I made a mistake. Let's accept our faults. Let's move on. The amal for today is the virtues of adhan. من أذن اثنتي عشرة سنة وجبت له الجنة. Whoever gives adhan for 12 years, Jannah becomes wajib for him. Another riwayat, من أذن محتسبا 7 سنين. Who gives adhan for the pleasure of Allah with the hope of reward for 7 years. كتب له براءة من النار. Freedom from the fire of Jahannam is written for him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq of practicing, benefiting, using every moment so that it will not be a proof against us on the day of Qiyamah. Wa akhir da'wana anil hamdulillah ya rabbil